stream with Anna.
It's not very often that this bloke calls through, but when Sam Carter from Architects give you a buzz, you need to jump on the phone straight away and have a chat to him. Sam Carter, welcome!
Pleasure to be here with Wall of Sound, and more importantly, my friend Brownie.
Oh, I love you, mate. It's been so long between visits. I mean, the last time we saw you was at the start of the apocalypse, before the whole world turned to shit, when you played Unify, and then all of a sudden it's locked everyone away. You're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel at the UK. How's everyone mentally? Like, not talking about the album, like with everything going on in the world.
Yeah, I think we're feeling. I think a lot of people here have sort of resigned themselves to just being in this forever. So a date has definitely been really helpful moving forward. I think it's been a nice time to really spend some time with yourself, because I think even if you live with your partner, I live with my fiance, I think it's been important to sort of stop and check in with yourself mentally and also be there for your friends. And it feels like we're ready to go.
And look, it gave you that opportunity to take a step back, work on new material. And I mean, the last time we got the chance to catch up, you were planning a wedding. Does that obviously get pushed back and the album gets pushed forward? Like, how does that work with your personal life?
Yeah, I think for the moment we just put it on pause. We both don't want people having to wear masks and so be socially distanced at a wedding. I think we want a good old fashioned, knees up with all your mates and stuff. So, but the record, luckily and strangely, was always planned for this time, and when we were writing and stuff was all planned. So it's worked in our favor, and worked and been nice for us to have something to be so focused on, for sure.
Which is perfect. I mean, and we're just moments away, I guess you could say, from the album finally seeing the light of day. So it's kind of lucky in the fact that you had this plan sorted and organised and everything's all just fallen into place. The only bad thing is you can't get out there and unfortunately play these shows. However, we saw a glimpse of these songs at the live at the Albert Hall live stream that you guys put together, and just in comparison to where you've come from, let's say, 5-6 years ago, to where you are now, it is like a completely different band. Architects have taken on this whole new attitude behind them, and you're playing with the big boys now. Do you feel that way when you're, putting out these ideas like the live stream, like the album?
It feels really exciting, and it feels like it's been a long time coming, but it feels like everything has been like a real learning curve. You're just learning in front of people, how to do it. But things, it feels, from our point of view, it's things that we've always wanted to do, and now being able to do it. Being able to put on a proper live stream and be able to do it exactly how we wanted to, and the venue that we wanted to, and the production that we wanted to, and not have anybody tell us, no, you can't do that, or don't be silly, it's going to cost too much money. Us just being like, we're doing it, and making it happen. And it's just nice to be able to, I think the bigger the band gets, the more you get to do those exciting things. And it's not like we ever, go on tour and make that much money at all. It's like everything we get, we put into the live show. And that's the way we've always been since we were kids. So it's just, we get to have more fun.
So in saying that, you're putting more back into the live shows with this album and the new direction, the brass, the strings, just the whole epicness of all of these new sounds you're putting into it. Where does that put you when you come back to playing shows? What kind of, venues are you going to be aiming for?
Yeah, I think a big thing again there was being able to bring those elements in again, but then be able to take the jump up with bringing the brass in and like actually having like full orchestras recording it is crazy, and something that we find so satisfying and fulfilling. When we come back, I have no idea how things are going to work, what capacity things can be, but I just can't wait to get in there and play these songs and really showcase all the exciting ideas we have.
Yeah, and you're going to have the fans who have been wanting a cathartic release to go back to a heavy show like this. I mean, just over the weekend here in Brisbane, we had a band called Deadlights who just played their very first show, a sold-out show where moshing was acceptable. And, you know, it's hard to believe, like, 11 months, we finally get a show with moshing again. So that's kind of like I guess you could say, something that you have to look forward to. I mean, it might be a smaller capacity. You might even see Architects going back to playing smaller venues. Would you be opposed to that until capacity gets back to where it was?
Honestly, I would play a pub right now.
Yeah.
I would play the pub next door to my house. But that's amazing. You know, hearing that, it really does give me some hope. I think, especially, this scene is so important to people, and that connection is so important. I think during that live stream, it made me realize, you know, 2 songs in, I'm like, this just isn't the same. It's amazing to be here playing these songs with the guys, but I mean, that connection of like just catching eyes with the front row, you know, seeing how much a song means to one person, let alone 5,000, 6,000, is unreal. And it goes both ways. You know, we get something out of it, and the crowd does as well.
Yeah, I can safely say an Architects concert is very much like a psychology session. You go in there, you relieve a whole lot of tension that you've probably had building up, you grab someone next to you, you sing and belt out the words, and then at the end of it all, you leave, and just everything in life feels right again.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of thing that we have, and I think it really comes down to just being honest, I think, and I think that really comes across, and I think it shows people in the room that it's okay to be vulnerable and to just be who you are and be open, and you shouldn't have to hide that at all. And I think that's why our shows are so good, is because everybody, you know, just realizes they don't have to try and be cool. They don't have to try and be anything. They can just be themselves and have a cry if they want, have fun if they want. You know, I think it's about that sort of expression of yourself.
And then you have these memories from these shows which you take with you for the rest of your life. Now, these live shows are going to change in future, especially with this plethora of new music. First of all, I wanted to talk about Animals. You surprise fucking released this out of nowhere, completely stopped the internet. I don't care about Kim Kardashian. Architects stopped everything in their path when this song came out. And the one thing that I've wanted to ask since I heard it was the poem. Where does that come from? What inspired that? Please tell me the story behind that.
Oh, I think it's coming out of that middle 8 part. Dan is obviously the writer, but yeah, coming out of that middle 8 part, we just wanted something. I really love how breathy that part is. I think, especially as you're like heading towards that chaotic moment where the breakdown kicks in. Yeah, I love that. That "Nobody Can Burn a Glass Cathedral" line is so
it's
good.
Beautiful. Like, we know from people who have spoken out about this, and the bands who we turn to for, I guess you could say, being able to relate to for the things you go through in life. I'm an anti-religious person, and so whenever I hear a band talking about something that is anti-religious or talks down about religion in some way, shape or form, my ears prick up and I'm inattentive, like, as soon as I hear what's going on. And for me, like, that has stuck with me, and it's catchy as hell, to the point that I could be sitting there or driving around one day, and then in my head I'm like, because nobody can burn a glass cathedral. It is catchy, it is amazing, and Dan's an incredible songwriter, but your delivery of putting that in the song, it just showcases your amazingly beautiful voice that you've got that can stick with you for years to come.
Oh, you're a very nice man, Brownie.
I try my best, I try my hardest.
Sometimes it can be the heaviest song in the world by singing it. You know, it doesn't have to be screaming. And you know, I love heavy music. I love that, but I love being in a heavy band. But I think sometimes, you can say more with less.
You can definitely do that, and what I wanted to talk about on this album itself, it is a change in direction. The metalcore that we've known Architects for has kind of taken a bit of a side seat, and we've seen this, I guess it's been dubbed the post-metalcore sound, and you're heading with like a stadium rock vibe behind your songs and all that, like taking it from what the band was to where it is now. And you don't necessarily need a breakdown in your songs, because you listen to the lyrical content and it hits harder than any fat breakdown I've heard over the past 5 years. Like, if you listen to your songs and what you're trying to get across, the message you have with this album, it's just as heavy as a fucking breakdown, man.
It's funny, I saw someone say it's a shit metalcore record, and they're right. It is. It isn't a metalcore record, so it would be a shit metalcore record.
At least you're honest.
We've never set out to be a metalcore band. I think we've sort of dubbed this, metalcore. I don't see it as a dirty word at all, but we never set out to be a metalcore band. It's sort of, we just sort of happened to fall in it in this sort of evolution of our band and where we were going. I'm always surprised, I feel like obviously we have sort of changed direction slightly, but I always feel like these elements have always been here, and I feel like true fans really understand that. I think even from like Down to Ruin and to Hollow Crown, these sides of our band have always been there. It's just now we feel able to express them more easily, and it just feels like a breath of fresh air after 9 records.
Exactly, and you need to do things to change it up to, show the progression of the band. I mean, we know the elitists that are in this scene will pick apart a band because they keep releasing albums that stay the same. However, when they differentiate and do something different, it's like they came out of the woodworks just to have their opinions heard. Oh, they've changed everything up. They're not the same band they used to be before. Like, you can't win with these people. But where do you find yourself and Architects when you come across, statements like that? Are you conscious of what people think, or are you just doing it for the sake of releasing music and important messages that you want to get out there?
I think sometimes it's funny, and I think you have to take a step back. I think, if you looked at the comments of people when we put out Holy Hell, you'd think that everybody listened to Seventh Circle non-stop. But I see the stats, and I know how many people listen to Seventh Circle. And it is the least listened to song on the record by some way. But I think that's fine. I think we've been showcasing this side of the band. I think if people are surprised by Animals, but like Doomsday, I'm like, what? How? What? What?
How
what
can
do you think?
Yeah. Doomsday is the greatest song of all fucking time, and if anyone wants to fight me on that, I'll meet you outside in the gutter somewhere, because you're wrong.
I think I blame the fans. They sort of, we see what people sing along to in the set. We enjoy it. So we were like, let's go here. But I think you have to just trust your gut. And I think after nine albums, and you have to just look for that buzz that you used to get when you first start writing songs. And I think if you start writing music for other people, then you're not going to write good stuff. And I think that's what we've always done. We've always trusted ourselves and looked for that like, yes, we've nailed this part. And I think that sort of replayability, I think that's the thing that me and Dan always look for when we're writing choruses and songs together, is when the song finishes, do you want to go back to the start and listen to it again? And if you do, then you're onto the right thing.
And that's exactly what I felt when reviewing this album. The one song in particular, obviously, it's hard to talk about every single song because there are so many, but the one song I remember listening to, and you can read it in my review at wallofsoundau.com, is the song that you've teamed up with Winston McCall of Parkway Drive. I remember listening to this, and it's got everything that any metalcore, post-metalcore fan would love and appreciate. You've got your cleans, you've got your yells, and then out of fucking nowhere, you got Winston McCall bellowing into your life. This is, and the pun I used in the review is what I'm going to use now, a match made in fucking heaven. How did this come about? Because it is so good.
I love this song. I really love how it came out. Winston's just such a nice guy. He's just such a really honestly lovely guy, and Parkway have always gone out of their way to look after us. They took us on our first tour to Australia. We played their first ever London show over here. We've been friends for so long, and it's one of those things where you don't get jealous watching them do stuff. You're just proud of them, and you're stoked, and you see them take this artistic jumps that they've done and gone, yeah, that's amazing, and seeing people give them shit for it. But then I've also seen them headline Wacken and go and play those songs. I've gone and seen them play those songs that people have like rinsed them for, and then absolutely wipe the floor. And do they care? No.
Exactly.
And I think getting him on it was the perfect part. You know, it was made for him. You know, that build up into the breakdown, and yeah, it really reminds me of sort of Horizon's era Parkway. That drop.
Yeah.
And what a vocalist, man! I mean, as a vocalist go, and as a person, he's one of the best.
Absolute, like alongside you, and I know that I'm just shooting up your ass right now. Two of my favorite vocalists on one song. Like Christmas has essentially come early for me with this song and this album. So like, I'm fucking stoked it happened.
I love that idea, and I think for fans of both our bands, it's so exciting to have. You know, when we announce tours together, people go crazy. So it's like, no, this is amazing. Like, get two people on it. You know, if I was a fan, I would be stoked. I mean, I am a fan of my own band, but I mean, like, just actually seeing that on paper before you even listen to it, you're like, yes, let's go.
Exactly, yeah, and this is something that they can turn to every time instead of having to wait year after year for these tours to actually happen. So, you know, I expect this to be one of your most popular songs to date. You can bring this back and hit me up about this in 20 years' time, Sam.
Yeah, it's a good hook. It's a good hook as well, that chorus. That's one of my favorite choruses, actually.
Now, what I wanted to change the topic to talk about is obviously the meaning behind this album. For those that wish to exist, you're covering some pretty intense topics with this. We need to change the world. We need to save the planet we're living on. And from what I took from the album, this is essentially your way of getting the message across without sounding preachy. You have all these songs and the messages in the songs so people can intentively listen to these songs and sit on them over time and eventually start making the changes they need to, you know, help the planet. Is that kind of the right idea?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not finger pointy, and I think it's more from the perspective of we and us rather than you and them. It's more of a whole, and I think it just discusses essentially where we're heading, which is not a very nice place. You know, you're seeing snowstorms in Texas, you're seeing the forest fires in Australia going out of control, you're seeing the Antarctic melting, you're seeing animals numbers in serious decline. You know, the list goes on of how bad things are getting. And we're now in the middle of a pandemic, which has probably started from, you know, animal agriculture, wherever it stems from. And how many more signs are we going to have put in front of us until somebody higher up in the government goes, we need to do something. We are, as a world, so inspired by Greta Thunberg, a girl that is furious with us, and rightly so, because we have taken away her childhood and she's having to fight for her generation. And I include myself in this, we're not on the streets fighting for justice and change. We just go, yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it? Really bad. We need to make change. You know, and I'm still vocal and go to protests and do these things, but we have to seriously address where we're heading, because the changes that we could make now would feel way less significant than the changes that we will have to make in X amount of years when things start having to be taken away from us because, you know, we're just completely destroying the planet. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, how much, you know, life is great. Life is really cool. But if we make these changes now, it'll be way less harsh.
Yeah, exactly. So get on it now for whether it be the future generations, our kids' kids, or whatever it is. Like, the sooner we jump on it and do something about it, the sooner we can make this positive change. And that's what you spoke about a lot in some of the songs, and even In Heart's Wake covered it in Caliuga. Like, the gap is closing and we're running out of time, so we need to act now.
Yeah, and I think that falls really massively upon governments. And I think that falls upon a lot of people in control, because, you know, they're going to have to put some rules and regulations in place for people to do this, whether it be you can only eat meat 3 times a week instead of every single day, so that can bring down, you know, the greenhouse gases that come from those slaughterhouses. Whether it be every household has 1 car, you don't need a car for every person in the house. Whether it be, you know, whatever these things are, these things need to happen, and it doesn't fall upon us to make those rules.
It's a collective thing. Everyone start together, team up with a friend. Like I've mentioned this before in some of the podcasts and interviews that I've done. Because of yourself, because of Josh from North Lane, Lizzie from the beautiful Monument, and a whole bunch of other people I can't recall right now, I've made the active change to have 2 vegetarian meals a week. And from there, I've noticed that like once you make that change, it's so easy. It starts. In 1 week, I managed to have 4. So like you do it subconsciously without even knowing. All you need to do is take that first step.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is it's being not looking for perfection in people, because that's just stupid. I think things like even 1 day a week is a massive change for people, and I think that should be something that's celebrated rather than like, well, I've been vegan for this amount of time. Like I've been vegan for 10 years, but I know that change doesn't happen overnight for some people, and I think people that are going out of their way to make a difference, if 1 meal a week, 3 meals a week, 4, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Perfect. Well, as long as everyone jumps on board, I guarantee by listening to this album 1, 2, 5 times, you're going to start thinking about the world around you and what you can do to change it. So I think you've done an incredible job in nailing that, putting it together in this album, and it really shows just how far this band have come. So, mate, I take my hat off to you and the boys. This is a fantastic release. For those that wish to exist, it is coming out February 26th. You need to get yourself a copy. Before we wrap things up, I want to show how much you are just like the rest of us. Now, Wall of Sound was started as a way for me to infiltrate the heavy music scene and talk about some of my favourite bands and musicians, and you have fallen into this category, Sam. But there's a bloke I need to introduce to the world. His name is Joshua Whitehead. He is arguably the biggest Architects fan in Australia. Now, Sam, you've seen Josh's collection. For those who haven't, this is what it looks like. It's an incredible effort, and this guy shows his dedication to the band by purchasing as much vinyl variants as he can. So, flipping that around, who are you a massive fanboy of, and who do you think about every time going, if I met this person, I might shit myself?
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney, really?
Yeah. I mean, like, my collection of Beatles stuff is outrageous. Like, I have every original record from the 60s, like 7 inches, you name it. Like I spend my life hunting different variants, different my t-shirt collection from like originals and like 80s and 90s t-shirts is absolutely outrageous. But yeah, that would be I just wouldn't even know what to say. I don't even know if I will be able to say something to him or Ringo or anyone associated with the Beatles. I'd be like, I don't even know what to say. We did a thing at Abbey Road last year, and George Martin used to record all the Beatles songs, and his son Giles works at Abbey Road, and he walked past me, and I was like, couldn't even get anything out. So yeah, that's my one. That guy's collection is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Literally, like, track him down online if you haven't had the chance to see it, and there's plenty more to come because he's pretty sure he's finished off the vinyl collection for those that wish to exist as well. But going back to what you were saying before, let's put it into the universe.
The poor guy.
I know.
I put out so many variants on this one.
But look, we do it for the love. We want to keep you going, and during these COVID times, we need to do everything we can to support our favourite band. So, like, hats off to him, and hats off to you guys for putting out such an incredible album like this. Sam, I fucking adore you. You know that. Everything about you and what you stand for. I cannot wait to see you back down under in Australia. It is going to be amazing, and well done on this opus.
I can't wait to be back and just be hanging out and just having a good time. You always put a smile on my face, man.